Hello, I think I'm live. I don't know, I'm doing my checking thing. It's not coming up as live. Let me check, folks. Yeah, saying live. Let me check the sound. You might hear a bit of a whistle for a sec. Sound music, don't it? No, I can't figure it out. I tend to shut up when I'm testing the sound. I shut up, and I went over and I tested, and I shut up, and I watched the screen, and I went, "No, there's no delay on it." So we'll just assume the sound because I don't know what to do about it. So I'm in my kitchen. I'm kind of crushed into a corner here, but I have been dying to do this live stream because I'm dying to paint. And this is the first oil painting of the year. I have not had my head stick in the picture for most, which you'll just see the painting. So what I'm hoping to do today, you can see I've done a little bit of work because last week, right, I was doing this drawing, and hopefully I don't have like a big kind of super high resolution on, but hopefully you can see that and it's in more or less in focus for you. I can just, you see, I have to walk around behind, yeah, I have to walk around behind the thing to make sure I can see what you're seeing. That's what we did last week on last week's live stream, and I've linked to that underneath this video if you want to go back and see how that drawing developed. Then, when I finished the drawing, I thought that'd make a good first beginning of the year painting. Let me see, because um, it's the scene outside my kitchen window. So I can sit inside and do it. And like today, it's lashing rain. Not absolutely lashing out of the heavens. I can still see through the rain, but it's not very nice weather. It's still very cold. We've had snow, and although I'm waiting for spring and quite hopeful about getting out to get some sketching done towards doing more landscape work, um, it's hard to do at this time of year. So even if you don't have anything outside your window that's interesting looking, you can go to a park, pick up a few fallen twigs, put them in a nice vase at home and paint them. And you're doing something that's related to the landscape somehow. So I'm going to start painting today. And during the week on the community tab, I put up um, a post about preparing this canvas, okay? And often recently, I've been doing a lot of paintings on um, paper because I was working in acrylics, but I just got the goo on me to do an oil painting. So you'll see me every once in a while. You see me change in whatever medium I'm working in because I like hopping and swapping and changing around. So for anybody who hasn't worked in oils before, this is a good opportunity to learn a few things about maybe, what's nice about oils, what's different from acrylics and everything. First of all is the canvas. You can work on canvas with acrylics. But I'm showing you the back of the canvas because I want to show you a thing about canvas. And I will actually start painting soon. I just wanted to point this out first because this could save you a lot of trouble, right? Here are a couple of canvases that I have, and I'm going to show you the back. Now, these are very similar. I don't think they're exactly the same size, but I think they're the same brand. They're made the same way, and they're made very well. But I'm showing you the back of them because on one of them you can see the oil from the painting. It's oil paint. These are both oil paintings. The oil has come through out of the paint bit into the back. And on the other one, it hasn't. That is because on one of them, I didn't prime it properly with this gesso stuff I'm going to show you. Now, when you buy a canvas, it's often, do you recognize that specky person there? Who could that be? um, when you buy a canvas, it's going to be primed with this stuff called gesso, okay? And what happens with some canvases, and it's very hard to tell by looking at a canvas, is they don't put enough of the gesso on. Doesn't matter so much with acrylics, but it does matter with if you're painting oil paints on canvas because of that oil leaching. And if the oil leaches out on the back, you risk having the back of the painting deteriorate and the fabric basically rotting. Now, I've never actually seen fabric rotting from doing that, but if you're planning to pass your painting down to generation upon generation and you want to last hundreds of years, what you do is you make sure that you have a good few coats of gesso on your painting. And there's another video I did that's a series, a 4-part, I think it is, series on painting landscape. And that goes right from the start of the painting, how to prime a canvas to the painting stage. So when I'm finished doing this live stream, I'll link to that underneath for anybody who's not sure. So you're buying a canvas, it's white already and has some gesso on it. But if you want to see if it has enough gesso on it, hold it up to the light. Look at it in the light through the back of it. And if you see little pinpricks that you can see through to the light, the gesso isn't completely covering the canvas properly, and it'll need a few layers. So this stuff is always good to have in stock. And I put at least 3 layers of this on my paintings on the canvas before I start painting. And as I say, the canvases are perfectly well made otherwise. All the corners and everything on them are beautifully made, and they even give you little wooden inserts to put into the corners that if your canvas goes a bit loose or baggy over months or years, you can tap in those little wooden things and it stretches it slightly further out. So they're really nicely made, and that's the only thing about them that I don't like, is that they're not primed well. So I had to start thinking about painting this from last Tuesday. I had done this drawing on the Saturday, right? Started it on Saturday live stream, finished it the day after, actually finished it. So then I said, yeah, I might do a painting from that. Why not? I'm dying to do something landscapey. And I can't really get out in the weather. So I camp out in the kitchen and do that. So Tuesday, I started doing my priming, put on a coat of primer, waited till the next day, went in another direction, primer, waited till the next day, went back in the first direction, primer, 3 coats. Then I came along and I did more things to it. And you'd be saying to yourself, like, primer, that's white stuff. Why is she making this warm brown color? Well, it has to do with the color of the scene, right? No, the scene is not completely brown. But if you take some of the white down a bit in your initial canvas, you're doing some of the work already before you start painting, because you're bringing it down to what in this painting is sort of a mid-tone. Now, it depends on your painting. There are various different colors you could do your canvas. You don't have to do this. You can just start painting or drawing. You can see that I've got pencil on this. It's okay to put pencil on top of oil paint. And that's what this is. This is a layer of watered down oil paint. And it's watered down with terps. So you'll use terps and or white spirits with your oil paint as a medium, a watering down medium, in the same way that you would use water with your acrylics to make acrylic paint more fluid. That's what your terps is doing. It's making it more fluid. Now you can also get medium to mix with your oil paint that's not as smelly. So I've never used them, but there are odorless medium that I don't know what you call them. They're brand names, different brand names, and that you can mix with oil paints. So a thin coat of oils that are watered down, and the colours I used for this background are burnt umber, and I can't actually tell where I'm pointing these, so sorry if it's not exact. And burnt sienna. So, it doesn't have to be that color, but generally speaking, some kind of earth tones, which would be your siennas, your ochre colors, and even your grays, right? A gray is perfectly acceptable color, particularly I'm looking at today. I could have done a gray quite easily over the whole canvas as my mid-tone because there's a lot of gray out there too. I wanted to use yellow ochre actually in with my burnt umber, which is darkish brown, um, to get the colour I wanted for the background. But I couldn't find more yellow ochre, and I'm sure I have some around somewhere, but I didn't want to. I got a bit lazy, didn't want to use that. So that's what it is: burnt sienna and burnt umber mixed together with some turps, and painted across with a nice soft brush, just a house painting brush, and then coming in with some sort of a cloth and just giving it a bit of a rub to take out any brush strokes and lighten it up a bit so some of the white background is showing through. But we've gotten rid of most of the white. Um, Now, some areas we're going to fill, like today, I'll be happy if I get a lot of the sky filled in. And the sky is very pale, but it's not totally white. It's not that white. It's actually not that far off it, to be honest with you. I've got a weird sky today out there. I have a very yellowy blue sky. I know the sky has a bit of blue in it, but it has an awful lot of yellow and kind of pinky tones in it. And actually, the way we're going to mix things up, we might be able to get some of this background showing through. So why have I done a lot of drawing? In theory, you can come along, right? I'll just show you with a little brush. I'm going to stop blacking in a minute, don't worry. But it's a pity to miss out on these technical things if you haven't used oil paints before and are curious about using it. And a lot of people haven't but would love to. So, I won't do this absolutely every live, but because it's a new project and it's oil painting, it's a new project, I thought, yeah, I'll just do a little tiny bit of intro to the technique. So you can, if you're going to draw something, you can draw it in thinned down. This one is slightly thinned down, a little tiny bit too much, but you see, you can draw with oil paint. But you can also draw in pencil. And for some people, you might be more comfortable drawing your design in pencil. Now, on top of this underpaint is pretty much the only time you can use pencil on top of oil paint. And that is worth pointing out for anybody who does acrylics or uses mixed media stuff in anything, because a lot of other things like acrylics, you could quite happily draw on top of the acrylics with pencil and then just use fix it to fix it. But you can't really do that on top of oils because it has a different finish to it to pencil, and the pencil just won't stay on it. But at this stage, when it's a very thin coat of oil paint, the pencil will sit on top of it. I mean, it'll, quite a lot of lead coming off there. It doesn't stay terribly well, but it'll sit well enough for you to get your drawing drawn in. And as you can see, I've scaled up the drawing a little bit. I do a lot of short videos that are, under a minute long. I might do one maybe next week with scaling up. We're using a grid on it. It's not really suitable for this particular drawing, but yeah, it could be used on this drawing. But I scaled this up very slightly, and I've done something unusual with my canvas choice. It's square, And when you think about it, a lot of social media stuff is square. On YouTube, community posts, all the photos I post, they're square format if you look. And on Instagram, the format for that is square. But for people painting, it's more usual to do things in some sort of a rectangular format, either that way, landscape, they call that, or portrait that way, than it is to do something square. So that's kind of unusual, but it just, you could tell from the drawing that it was, wanting to be a square. So we're making it a square. So let's get started. We're going to start on the sky, and I want to make sure you can see that whole canvas. Yes, you can. So I don't want to move this canvas anymore because you can see it. I'm going to get some of this stuff. I don't think that. And you're probably glad I finished waffling. But sometimes it's a good idea to listen to somebody waffle. So I have other innovations today include being able to have kind of a portable palette, and I'm holding it up here so you can see me mixing colour. And I'm going to talk about what kind of colour I'm going to use for the sky, because we're concentrating on the sky today. I don't know how long this painting is going to take to do. I might not do the whole painting. If it took me longer than a week, I might not do another live stream doing it, or I might do another live stream doing it, and just see how the mood takes me, whether I think it's live stream worthy, But I will do the usual and post photos on the community tab. So I might even post progress photos. I think that would be interesting to see. And as I mentioned at the beginning, I do have a 4-part series of a landscape painting that I did. I think it's 2 years ago now. Actually, time flies. And I'll link to that from the first one onwards underneath this video, in case you're thinking of doing some landscape stuff and you want to see how a project like that goes from start to finish. It's a bigger kind of a project than stuff I've been doing, because a lot of the little acrylic pieces I've been doing, they're small and they're quicker. They don't take as much preparation because they're done on paper. Paper doesn't even need to be primed. So, acrylic is handier in a lot of ways. But sometimes you really want the juiciness of oil paint. And maybe you'll be able to see it if I show you this. This is just a white, but I have the biggest tube of white. And look at the thickness of this stuff. It's got a lot more body, you see, than acrylics because of the oil in it. I mean, paint, when you think that, it's just pigment, isn't it? But the pigment can have a lot of stuff added to it. So this has like linseed oil added to it, and probably a few other binders and things like that. So we want to get some blue going as well. And I said that the sky had a lot of yellow in it. So there is going to be kind of a yellowy colour in it, and my favourite yellowy colour is going to come out. Now I'm going to put down 2 different blues. This one, I don't know how somebody else would pronounce it, but this is phthalo blue is the way I pronounce that. PHTHALO. A better colour actually to have if you were starting to buy oil paints and you wanted to buy blue would be ultramarine blue or even cobalt blue, but I couldn't get either of those last time. Sometimes you just buy what you get. The other one that I get a lot of mileage out of is cerulean blue, and I'm always doing this kind of thing, losing the top of things and having to come along and do this, and then I end up with, you see these dried out bits, they end up stuck to trousers, furniture, And basically anything, unless you make sure they go into the bin, which I'm doing here. I'm in the right place. So, got a bin nearby. So goodness knows where the top is off that. But even a super neat person has a hard time with these tubes sometimes because the threads of them get all painted and they're hard to keep clean. So the big tubes, although they can seem like they're going to last ages, they can be a false economy sometimes. Sometimes you might be better getting a small tube. Yeah. A small tube would be that kind of size. So phthalo blue, cerulean blue, which is your typical kind of summer sky blue. And then Naples yellow. This is the most beautiful color. I use this a lot. I'm a Naples yellow addict. Oops. Well, it's just as well because half the tube came out the top. I think this is an artist quality here. Behaves totally differently. I squeezed too hard, didn't I? Other things you really, really need are rags because this is very, very messy. Compared to acrylics, you don't get any second chances if you spill this on yourself. So prepare to have if you get really into oil painting, right? Every item of clothing you have will be ruined. Anything that you ever wear painting would be ruined. I used to look at old photos of painters from, the turn of the century, Parisian painters who'd be all wearing their little suits and everything while painting. And go, how the hell, or Victorians, wearing their suits, or women painters wearing beautiful dresses. How the hell are they keeping any of that stuff clean? My dress, my suit, or whatever would be absolutely destroyed. So here are our colours out, and we might need more, right? Other colours you might need for the sky. You'd be amazed what can turn up in the sky. These are kind of, we're getting a bit fancy here, but there can be purples. This is a cobalt violet. That could turn up in the sky. But we're going to mix up a basic colour first and then have a look at it and see how we feel about it. And of course, the colour of the sky can be kind of modulated a little bit across the sky as well. So we don't mind, if the colour isn't exactly the same all the way across. So you have a choice of ways of mixing your oil colour. A lot of people do this kind of thing with palette knives and use the palette knife to mix. But I'm not mad about that just because, although it does this very nicely, you then have to come along and use brushes or another palette knife to scrape off what's collected on this palette knife. So, it kind of defeats the mixing purpose a bit. I find it easier to mix with brush personally. I might as well just use stuff on that and not waste it. So I'm going to use a kind of a medium brush for this. And I've got my oil painting brushes out for this. So these are Hogfitch brushes. And they're a stiff bristle, basically, fairly stiff. And that's a cheapo brand, Graduate. But, well, Jailer Roundly isn't a cheapo brand, but Graduate is, the cheaper end of the range. And it's a nice, my favorite shape brush, Filbert, is that it's flat, but it's slightly rounded up at the top. So you don't get like edges when you're painting. And the other thing I want is I have a thing of clean. I know it doesn't look clean, but it's Terps, and it's in a little jar here. Now the palette isn't going to stay that way up, okay? Because it's going to get a bit runnier now in a sec. The other thing I've got is an extra jar. I've got a jar, cup actually with all my brushes in it, but an extra jar so the brush that I've just used that I haven't cleaned yet goes into that. And same as acrylics, you have to be very good about cleaning your brushes after this. So I'm using the turps to just dip, okay? And that turps will water down colours slightly, and we're then able to come along and mix. Okay, so I am looking for something lighter than this. And here's a little trick. If you're painting from something in front of you, or even from a photo, and you want to test out the colour, do the colour on a piece of paper and hold the thing up. Now, the light here isn't great. The light is in front of me, so it's making the thing look darker, but I'm so used to doing this that I can tell. This is a little bit not kind of pinky enough. However, I'm going to add a little bit more terps. And then we're going to see how that looks with a little bit of the brown from underneath peeping through. And look what we can do here. If I grab, this is actually a sock I'm using it. When you can demote your clothes and use them as rags, these socks. Both of them had a hole in them. Now look what you can do here. So you can modulate your colour a little bit in thickness this way. So there's all kinds of subtleties can go on with your paint. Or the other way to do things. So in some bits of the sky, you might get little bits of brownishness peeping through, right? But what I might want to do is generalize about the sky first, then go back, and if I need more pinks or anything, go back and do that. Now, the side of this, I have also painted the side with this underpainty colour. Now, if you're going to frame the piece, it wouldn't matter at all to go right over the edge, you know. But it can be kind of nice to hang something up if the piece suits it. You can actually hang things without frame because the stretcher is kind of a frame that protects the painting to a certain extent. And oil paintings don't mind dust and things like that as much as maybe an acrylic painting might be affected by it. An acrylic painting, you might like to get a frame under glass for it. Because they're not as kind of, wipe with the dust rag and they're happy. Oil paints they preserve easier, you know. So what I'm doing here is I'm going between, I have indicated the main branches, but they indicated little, very skinny branches as well, right? And what I'm doing is instead of going into those little areas straight away, I'm leaving them and just drawing a kind of circular shape around them. Get some more terps. And then I'm going between them. So what I'm doing is I'm getting rid of a lot of this brown, but there's still kind of a little ghostly bit of it hanging around because my sky is so see-through. Don't worry about any kind of slight pooling effects or anything, because you got your little rag for, dabbing and wiping back, and we're still at the underpainting stage. And some of these little weird effects, you'd be surprised when you come along and you do more work. Some of the wonderful textures of these kind of marks that you made in the underneath layers give such richness and depth to your painting that it's the difference between an amateur looking painting and a painting that looks like somebody who knows how to paint, right? Trust me on it. The thing is not to worry about it, but kind of to understand why you're doing something. So you can see with this one, and I'm taking my time doing this because I was so looking forward to doing this in the first place. I had to hold on to this live stream to actually start doing it, and now I want to really enjoy it. So you can see that the branches are coming out now. I want to be careful about holding that too sideways because I've so much terps in that now. And personally, I don't mind my house being full of the smell of terps. Doesn't bother me at all. There's nobody like going to give out to me about it or anything. I'm used to it, and I don't find it affects my breathing. But I think the point of getting those odorless things is that for some people, they either don't like the fumes of terps, or it affects them, or it might affect their breathing, or their skin doesn't like it if it gets on their skin. And obviously, like the terps in your skin, I would go out and wash my hands, but it doesn't seem to affect me too bad. Whereas I would be very sensitive to some chemically things. I can't tolerate things like biological washing powder. I can't. Makes me mad itchy. So I don't know why I'm not sensitive to terps. Has a sensitivity to something different. So now I'm still with quite a big brush, but I can change the smaller brushes to go into the smaller areas. I'm going to do that in a while, but I'm going to take my time with doing that here. I hope that the definition on this isn't too bad. I didn't want to change. Yeah, it's okay. I didn't want to change the definition on this up to. I had a choice to do a really high definition, but sometimes your internet can't handle it, or I don't know if other people's internet watching it is a factor in that or not. So generally speaking, the quality of my live stream footage tends to be lower than the quality of the footage over on my main video area. So this is why I like what YouTube have done now, which is this new way. It's a new layout, really, for the way your channel is laid out. They have live shows on a different kind of tab of your channel for then your videos that you upload. So, you don't always see my live streams on the main tab. This is why today I decided, well, I'll try scheduling the live streams, because I think they then turn up on the main tab and somebody goes, oh yeah, look, she does live streams as well. Whereas you mightn't even realize that I do them at all, the other way, because you might never wander over the live stream tab. Same with the community tab. I often don't think of going when I'm on people's channels. I often don't think of going to the community tab at all. It's really only if I'm subscribed to somebody and their post turns up on my home feed or something, that I know they've done any kind of a post. And the community tab is so handy for posting paintings or progress with pictures up, or notices about, oh, I'm doing a video on this thing, the other thing next, or this live stream is coming up. So you can see here how the sky is sort of still quite vaguely colored. It's not like, super committed to a particular color. It's definitely got a blue thing going for it, hasn't it? But you can see little bits of the brown showing through. Now, what I would do is I would work completely across in that one color, because this brown is also throwing out the reading of that color as well. So I would advise you, if you were going to have a go at this technique, and this is the interesting thing about watching how somebody else approaches a painting, they will approach it differently to you probably. You go, oh, I never thought of doing it that way before. I watch a lot of other people's painting techniques to try new ways of doing things because I find it freshens me up wonderfully. But so you'll see if you want to try this yourself with a painting, you'll see how it works. And this works just as well with acrylics. You know, this kind of layered approach. And some of this brown will be kept. Like if this brown isn't kind of like totally wasted then when you're finished doing it. It's a bit lighter than everything else. So don't be afraid to wipe back things a little bit. But nothing really gets wasted in painting. Even bits that where you think were a mistake and you want to get rid of, don't really get wasted because some sort of vestige of them stays, or else you just learn something from it. And I think that a lot of the brown bit, a lot of that brown will get kept down here. There's in the original drawing, there's a very tangly blackberry bush down at the bottom. And there's a lot of that browny, warm browny color in the different tendrils of it. So that'll all get kept. So we're going to go up to sort of the top of the bush here. And actually I'm coming down, I've come down further than the skyline really in this. So I will have to go back and do other things here. And I have the skyline vaguely indicated somewhere down here, but I'll have to re-establish that, and I will re-establish that while that's dry. I do want to get this done, and this painting I'm taking my time. No time limit on this one. If this took me till March, I don't care because I'm waiting for spring. But you see, you do impose time limits on yourself in a way because I know that I can maintain interest in painting for a certain amount of time, and I have an idea about how long that is. So while I could say that a painting might take me several months or even a year to do, it's not a year working on it every day, or it's not, you know, working every day for several months usually. Because that's, you get sick of the painting working that way. I might pause it if I have problems with it, you see, and go back to it and when I think I can solve the problems. But it's more likely that I'm going to want to finish it within sort of 3 weeks-ish. I can keep focus. And then I start to fall apart after 3 weeks. I get sick of it, basically. You know, I get to dislike doing it because I'm starting to think, oh, I want to do a painting of this, that, the other thing, and this thing is stopping me doing it, you know. So you have to watch out for that painting fatigue. So, you know, that kind of puts a little time limit on me. I don't know where that's coming from. Let's see. You see, there's a thing about having drawings you can refer, and I have the thing outside the window as well. But I'm not standing at the right angle to it. I should be standing more sort of here-ish. But obviously I'd be in the camera if I did that. So, you know, I'm not at the right angle to actually. Well, it's nice to have the thing on front of me, you know, color-wise, it's good. So I have a color reference and I have a drawing reference as well. So this was the one I just wasn't sure about. That one. So let's see the way it goes. I've actually continued it up here in a way that it didn't really continue. So I don't know why I did that. The thing has to kind of make sense to you, doesn't it? And what we're working at here is negative space. That's what we're working in at the moment, right? The positive space is the thing you're painting. Negative space is the space between things. And this is another thing I just mentioned in a short video that I did as well, because it's so helpful. Negative space is so helpful for placing things, as well as just, we're not using it for placing things here because we have our drawing down already. But sometimes if you're drawing something, if you look at the space in between things, like this little space here, what shape it is, that helps you to get the thing down. Now, again, I'm coming down much too far with the sky, but I don't mind because this bit's going to be a bit modified later. I just want to be able to see the tree first, the branches. And again, I want to reference those. I'm not holding this up. I'm not holding the drawing up right in front because I don't want to get paint on the drawing. So the next stage of this would be that I come back in with the painting with the trees and get them, lay down a dark tone on those, do the middle sky bits in between the branches as well. So up here at the top of the tree, I'm going to have fun, I think, with the top of this tree because the other day there were a couple of jackdaws and they were balanced right at the very top of the tree. And they were so funny and sweet up there because they're really thin little branches. Obviously, you know, you wouldn't be doing that with your fingers if you were sensitive to terps. Not a good idea. But the jackdaws are up at the top of the tree and they're only little tiny branches at the top of the tree. And they both managed to balance, bouncing up and down on top of the tree. But they're such a beautiful shape as well. So I think I might have to have them. You can actually hear them outside. They hear me talking. Okay, and I want to mix up a little more color. And if anybody's coming in, I'm sorry if I'm ignoring it. I don't really have many visitors in the live streams anyway. So, oh, there is somebody there. Mulvar is here. Hiya, Mulvar. How's definition is fine. It's fine. Is it a, do you mean is it definition is a fine thing generally? Or definition this one is fine. You see, this is the wonder of chat. So yeah, first painting of the year, you see, this is so exciting. I was all excited at this last night, and then today I was going, oh, roll on 2 o'clock. I just wanted to start now. I resented having to. Okay, so you see the way we can do this, and we can come along. We could cover, you know, if you've been patient, guys, we can come along and cover more space with a bigger brush. You see, people don't think it doesn't have to. I do it as well. Get stuck with the same small brush all the time. But I think myself, you see, the different brush even makes different strokes. You know, remember that, because when you come to do another tree down the side, well, you know, you might say, oh, I remember I had this brush that made that kind of stroke, and I might want to use that there, or I might want to use it down here. There might be some little bits of grass down the bottom thing. So that brush is now going into my clean jar for the brushes that have to be washed straight after the session, because it's a good trick, because you don't actually miss cleaning any of them. So so far we have white. I think it was phthalo blue, Venetian yellow, what sort of white, titanium white it was, and there was so little blue in the sky. So, and it's totally different color, you see, because not because I mixed the color up wrong, but because it's thicker paint. So don't worry about it. It's white back kind of job, isn't it? But I'm building up carefully because I want this. I don't know. I think it's a very delicate subject. That's what I like about it. And that's what you're doing in your landscapes. You're deciding what qualities the thing has that you really love about it, that makes it, particularly beautiful. There's actually a couple of qualities that I'm messing up nicely here as we speak. So I'm going to get my little brush out and do a little bit of drawing with the little brush I was using before, because this side of the tree, I want to get those small branches going, and I don't have them properly indicated here in a way I understand in the drawing, so I'm going to add a little bit to it. So I need to find my burnt umber, which is a wonderful color. And some people will come along and they'll have a wonderfully organized palette in terms of what colors they put together and everything. I do group colors, right? So if I was going to see, more colors will start coming out as I go along and painting. If I was painting lower down and needed yellow ochre, the yellow ochre will go down grouped with browns, and the brown is near my Venetian yellow, because they're all in the same kind of earthy yellow tones. Blues all go together. Then I've got reds will go somewhere else, greens will all be grouped together. And some people say, oh, one green will do you for everything. The reason that you would need more than one blue sometimes, or you need more than one green, or more than one brown, is that they have slightly different qualities. For example, so we're going to draw. We have the brown very thin. We're going to draw with paint now. The qualities of the different paints are, some of them are transparent and some are open, and that is one of the biggest differences, I think, in what colors you can get out of them. And when you're trying to color mix, no matter how good you are at getting colors, duplicating color from nature, if you're trying to do something very glowing, right? Say in landscape, you're trying to do a very glowing yellowy green. Oh, the jackdaws are up on the tree. They're terrific. I can actually draw them. If you're trying to draw a really glowy yellow, you're not going to get that glow with a yellow that's not a see-through yellow like that Venetian yellow. You would have to get it with something really see-through, like I use a transparent golden ochre sometimes, which is a see-through version of ochre, to get intensity into colors that are glowing. landscapey colours. So for me, that would be like the big difference between, like, why I would have 3 different types of greens, because in theory you would be able to mix up the color you want to match a color in nature, but sometimes you can do that, but you can't get the glow. Okay, so what I'm looking for on this side is to have the same groups of these little twig-like things on what turned out to be what we reckon is a beech tree, because I found the fruits on it. Okay, so there's one. Yeah, he really wants to be in it. He's up there in his own. Now, you see the way you can lay down a colour quite happily on top of the pencil, but a word of warning with this, right? I would not use pencil to draw over an oil underpainting if the colour that's going on top of that is going to be a light colour with no grey in it, okay? Because what happens with the pencil, maybe it'll show it more if I just use terps to wipe it around. What happens to the pencil, see, I've no real colour on the brush now. It just goes very black or grey pencil. So if I had a white in that or a bright yellow or something, it's got a grey and dirty down colour. So, I don't mind, because the bough of this tree is a very dark kind of colour. And I will come along, I will wait for this layer to dry before I put on any highlights on that bough. So, it's not the case that you're leaving that pencil bit forever on it. You're not. You're just putting it in to indicate what you're going to put on later. And because you could have done it all painting it, but it was just for ease of drawing. It might be easier to draw it in pencil, sometimes. In the project that I'm going to link up to under this video, the painting project, I didn't use pencil for my underpainting. I painted it. I actually just painted, but I only had a few little bows. I didn't have the bows as complicated as in this painting. And, it's not exact. You're getting the main swing of the tree. That's what you want to get right. So I'm going to start this down lower than I did in the drawing, because I want those jackdaws in the upper part, and I want them to have space to sit. And I don't want to have too much cut off top of the thing. So we're coming down a bit lower. So I'm generalizing about the edge of each shape there, because obviously there isn't a big circle around each of these sections, but it does show where to put in the smaller. Sorry, when I'm reaching back behind me, I'm reaching to get more terps to do this, to water that down. So the reason I'm putting these in is so that I know when I'm coming along to do the tiny bits where generally to put, because they are in generally circular clumps. It's not that we're going to leave all this circular bit in. It's just a guideline. And it breaks the job up a bit, you see. Now, I want to keep an eye on the time, because I only want to be on for an hour. So it is 14:54. You see, 55 by me. So I've only got 5 minutes left. So I'll work away on the blue. if you want to start some kind of a painting yourself, even if it's the Jack is still there, I'm so pleased with that. um, even if it's not something, not a landscape, that you're not going out into the landscape, or you don't have it in your kitchen or something. Um, you can still do that trick that I was talking about. Go out for a little walk, pick things up on the walk. There's always sticks and bits of leaves and everything that have fallen. Pick up a few things, bring them home, put the sticks in a vase or arrange them on a shelf or something in front of you, or on a piece of paper that you like. Um, you can use the same techniques. You see, even with sticks in a vase, that this same technique here comes into play. So you're making a little tree yourself, you see, to use, and it's a very, very good exercise, and I think it's very good um for your painting generally. Even if you're not changing you decided not to change the medium that you're working in, to, you could be doing this in acrylics, or you could be doing a drawing, but to look at the techniques that somebody else is using, because their approach might be different to your usual approach, and try somebody else's approach and say, let's try out that thing and see what happens, and see if it's a disaster, or is there anything in that I can use that might help me with my little way of doing things? It's not copying somebody's style, it's making use of some of the tricks, because these are all kind of standard tricks, and you're either going to figure them out yourself over time or see somebody else doing them. So if you see somebody else doing them and you go, oh yeah, I wonder would that change how I did this, that, or the other thing, or would that make such and such a thing easier that I, find tricky, or would that make something more interesting? Seeing it in that way, give it a go and find out. So I think I might get more of the sky in, and I might get a little bit of the background started here, and maybe another hour's painting in it for me. But what I'll do is during the week, I will post progress in, sort of tomorrow, the next day, on the community tab, I'll put up little progress posts, because I think that it's also very interesting to watch a painting as it develops. And you might find that you have kind of, um, like myself, as somebody painting it, you might have different phases of painting that you like, and then you go through phases. You go, why did I do such a thing? I don't like it as much anymore. Then you start liking it again. It can look very, very different at different stages in your painting, and that's what's exciting about painting, isn't it? I say I have loads of work to do down here in the painting, just to establish things before I go on painting. But you can see how the sky bit is kind of starting to develop. And even at this early stage, I have 1, 2, 3 brushes out. So don't be afraid to make use of your brushes, because there's a different brush for every job, you know. This is a brush that I often use for acrylics and watercolor. I don't think it's a real sable, it's a fake sable, but it's a round, and it's got a good point on it, and it's a soft brush. So the soft brushes are great for drawing, whereas those hogfish brushes are great for, more painting with more body in it, and that, spreading around your oil paint. So far you wouldn't really know it was an oil paint. And sometimes it's really hard to tell the difference between painting and acrylic. But as you move along painting, they do have a different feel and everything. And this is why I have the goo on to oil paint, and why I've got that. I just feeling. So I hope you get a big kick out of whatever arty thing you're doing this week, whether it's looking at art, doing art, thinking about art, um, whatever you do, get a kick out of it, you know. And try new things, have fun. And thanks for dropping by. And look out for community posts during the week. And as I say, the live stream next weekend. I don't know whether I'll be back with this. I might be still working on it by next weekend. But if you have a particular preference and you want me to live stream again with this painting, if if it becomes obvious from the posts that I'm still working, because I never know how long it will take really when I start. Well, just tell me in the comments, or tell me about what you're painting or whatever, and we'll see you next week. Okay? Take care, everybody. Bye.